The controversy over Home Minister Sushil Kumar Shinde is growing after he said he was planning to write to chief ministers asking them to be careful while arresting Muslim youth in terror cases. Well, he used the word minorities. The BJP says this is unconstitutional, crime has no religion, but the Congress is going out of its way to defend Mr. Shinde and says this is not a case of appeasement politics.
When Syed Maqbool and Mohammad Amir were acquitted of all terror charges a few years ago, they had already lost 14 years of their lives in jail. The Home Minister's proposed letter to Chief Ministers saying state police must be careful when arresting Muslim youth may change little for them, but it has once again reignited the debate on whether such comments are made with an eye on the Muslim vote bank and whether they are even constitutional.
अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल तो है ही है, उसके साथ ही साथ आपकी एक बहुत ही खराब राजनीतिक मंशा और नियत को भी साफ करता है। तो आप गुनाहगार और बेगुनाह की पहचान जो है मजहब के नाम पर कैसे करेंगे?
वोट बैंक की राजनीति देखिए, वो मुख्यमंत्रियों को चिट्ठी लिखने की हिम्मत कर रहे हैं और ये कह रहे हैं कि आप अगर गुनहगारों को अरेस्ट करते हो तो ये देखो कि मुसलमान अरेस्ट न हो।
क्या रिलीजन के आधार पर तय होगा कि गुनहगार को पकड़े रखे न रखे?
The CPM had in fact led a delegation to the President in 2012 with a list of 20-odd cases where Muslim youth were falsely implicated in terror cases.
Somebody continues to remain in custody when it has been shown that they are not responsible for that. It's a basic violation of a fundamental right of the Indian Constitution. Only in 2013 that the Home Ministry and the Home Minister, Mr. Shinde, woke up and wrote to the state governments.
The Congress, though, stands by the Home Minister's statement, denying it has anything to do with the elections.
Minority की संजीदगी को सामने रखते हुए सिर्फ इसलिए उनको प्रताड़ित नहीं करना चाहिए कि वो minorities हैं.
Activists working with those who faced false cases and have been fighting the terror tag for years say the serious repercussions of these fabricated cases on the lives of these people should not be forgotten in this battle of political one-upmanship. In New Delhi, Ketki Angre for NDTV.
Well, is this move, appeasement politics, unconstitutional by the Home Minister as he finds himself in one controversy after another? We have Nirmala Sitharaman, the national spokesperson of the BJP, joining us now. Tavleen Singh and Vrinda Grover stay with us. We'll also be joined by Sanjay Jha of the Congress party. Tavleen, let me take this to you first. Many would say that this may be, in a sense, a genuine issue. That no one should be wrongfully arrested irrespective of their religion, but it's also a fact that many Muslim youth have been picked up in this country and then wrongfully put in jail in various cases, but that it is the politics of it just before the elections that is a problem. Tavleen.
Of course it is. It's shocking. When there was Sikh terrorism, it was Sikhs who were suspect, weren't they? And you know, I mean, in fact, most cases of terrorism in the past 10 years or 15 years have involved Muslims, jihadis. Now, but to send out a message that says, please be good to Muslim youth, but you know, arrest any number of Hindu youth that you want, what are you trying to do? Set the country on fire? You know, the Home Minister of India should be as concerned about Buddhists and Hindus and Muslims and anyone who is wrongly arrested and suffers for that. What he's done is absolutely wrong to address only Muslims, because he's actually putting them as a target for the kind of irritation that anger actually, that people feel when this is done.
I'm going to take that to the Congress spokesperson, Sanjay Jha. Mr. Jha, shouldn't then the Home Minister actually have been focusing on, under trials who are languishing in jails for years on end for various crimes? They may have actually served out their term if they were to be convicted, focusing on that irrespective of religion, rather than looking at minorities, and we know what minority means. It's seen as classic cynical vote bank politics by the Congress party on the eve of elections. Nobody sees it any other way. Mr. Jha.
Nidhi, I beg to differ. I heard Mr. Modi make a speech yesterday where he talked about the fact that the law and order is a state subject. Yet, yes, it is. But we saw what happened in Gujarat. It is a state law and order subject, but we saw what the state did. So I don't want to get into the politics of it all, but look at what Mr. Shinde's statement is, and I have read that. Firstly, it's not about any one particular minority community. He talks about minorities overall. He's even clarified that. The second point, I think that's the point he's made. He said that the state governments must form panels to review cases, especially those that relate to illegal detention, which is unlawful, which is frankly a human rights issue. And let me just frankly widen the purview of this debate, because every time you talk about supporting the minorities, it becomes a vote bank politics in the eyes of those who constantly look at it from a different prism. I think any civilized society in any part of the world has a responsibility. Every government at federal or at the central level has a responsibility to look after the social, economic and the protective interests of the minorities, whoever they might be. And I do believe that's the way it should be going forward.
It doesn't occur to you
and
to
I
do that a couple of years ago?
Incidents,
no,
where
I'm
people
sorry,
from
but
the
it doesn't occur to the Congress to look at the welfare of the minorities then, maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. You've actually been in power for 9 years or almost 10 years. My point is, why does it happen on the eve of elections? In September, before the assembly elections, Mr. Shinde shoots off one letter. Now before the Lok Sabha, he shoots off another one. You could have done this way before the elections were taking place. That's why it's seen as cynical politics.
Well, not at all. I'll give you, I don't want to get into the specific incidents of terror violence where you'll find, Maligaon is one example, but I don't want, let's not reduce this debate to that point. I think the bigger point, Nidhi, to answer your question will be that if you look at the Sachar committee report, I think that to me is more fundamental to, trying to actually look at minority welfare. I mean, that was in 2005. It has got nothing to do with the elections at all. I mean, the process of evolution, change, emancipation of any community is a long-term process. Now, as far as these incidents are concerned, you have noticed that terrorism has happened at sporadic intervals. So every time it happens, you find that there is an institutional bias that has been perceived. And, I'm not making a political point here. This has been looked at by very dispassionate analysts who have seen the trend where there is always a tendency to blame a community, and it's not just individuals but families get harassed, and a lot of families actually go through a lot of turmoil and pain as well.
But
so
I think the point is that maybe the Congress could have thought about them at a different time.
He's left it to the states to take a call.
Maybe the Congress could have then taken up these issues at a different
time.
I
don't think there's any timing. This is a relevant issue at any stage.
Well, Ms. Sitharaman, though, what Mr. Sanjay Jha is then saying is that the merits of these cases are important to see that there is an institutional bias, and many would say that there is. There is a problem of young Muslim youth being wrongfully arrested, and therefore even if it is seen through the prism of vote bank politics, what's wrong with that? That's his argument. Nirmala.
Nidhi, there is a process in this country through which any unlawful detention or any such arrests which are made can be looked into, but only by the public prosecutor, and then he presents the case to the judge, who applies his mind and then says, there's no case, send them away. But you may be a home minister, you still are not empowered to interfere in that process. That's exactly the main point of this whole, debate. One. Second, setting up review committees is just not envisaged in the structure. All that we need is no innocent should be arrested, no innocent should be kept for unlawful period, and if at all this issue has to be addressed genuinely, we should look at reforming the police, reforming our criminal justice system, and making sure that no citizen is held unlawfully. There you cannot be differentiating between a criminal of one particular religion. The instruction that is going out from the Home Minister is, before you arrest, if a particular person belongs to a particular religion, be careful. That's not justifiable, and that's the argument we are putting forth.
Vrinda Grover, as someone who's worked very closely in this area, I think that is a very valid argument. When you put it like that there's something that doesn't quite ring right. Even if there is a message that the Home Minister is trying to give here that may have some merit in it, but saying that don't arrest someone or be careful about arresting someone because of their religion sounds a little problematic.
Well, let's actually leave the articulation of the Home Minister aside for a minute and see what is the ground reality that we are confronted with today. In this country, we have a very, very high percentage of illegal, unlawful detention, which does not reach the court, which is actually completely off the radar of, and where the largest number of poor people are targeted, Adivasis are targeted. You today have a very, very high under trial Adivasi population in Chhattisgarh, for instance, where there are anti-Naxal operations. They are languishing in jails. The acquittal rate there is, the conviction rate there is 1% to 3%. Yet they are in jail. There are no witnesses which are ever brought forward. So we are facing a crisis when it comes to the issue of minorities. Yes, no citizen should be arrested. I totally agree. It is a human rights issue. However, I think we need to bring the real issue into focus. In the process of arrest, in the process of detention, in the process of prosecution, there is ample evidence to show that the police and other agencies of this country are acting with an institutional bias. Institutional bias is a serious subject of study. This was acknowledged by the Justice Macpherson report in England, that there was a racial bias against blacks in England. And then an entire process of rectification was put into place, which includes police reform, etc. In India today, there is a targeting of the Muslim community, which is taking place through arrest, detention and implication in false cases. Very often those cases and that documentation is coming to light. We need and review, mind you, I think Nirmala Sitharaman needs to revisit her facts. Review panels have been set up under the law for POTA. A review committee, a judicial review committee was also set up for POTA. We have repeatedly seen that these kind of laws actually hit at particular vulnerable communities much more.
Let me ask Nirmala Sitharaman that, Ms. Sitharaman,
no, wait a minute.
Does the BJP acknowledge that there is an institutional bias against Muslims? Let me ask you that.
Wait a minute, Nidhi.
Yeah.
Vrinda Grover, as an activist, may be right in speaking a political argument, but it is not a factually incorrect kind of a statement that I have made. Review committees of POTA are very different. The instruction which is being given by the Home Minister...
No, you said that we don't have such a thing in our structure. The law allows for it.
Thank you for interrupting me to correct me, Vrindaji. I wish you just wait for me to finish. I have not even done 2 sentences. You could hear me and legally keep correcting me with a political argument. Legal argument is a different thing. Here what I am trying to suggest, Nidhi, is when the Home Minister is trying to come in, not to review POTA, which is a policy which you may have been wrongly brought in or rightly brought in, but to review only cases related to Muslims. Is there a differentiation being made in terms of religion? Is there a law in this country which allows for differentiation between religions? I don't think in criminal matters religion plays a role. Vrindaji may be a very eminent lawyer, but my understanding is only in civil personal matters religion makes a difference.
Ma'am, do you acknowledge that there is an institutional bias against Muslims?
Nidhi, I'm sorry.
When it comes to terror cases in particular, there are so many examples. You have the Makkah Masjid blast, for instance. You have a journalist who was arrested and let off by the NIA. I'm just asking whether you believe as a party that there is a problem when it comes to Muslim youth and how they are looked at in this country, especially in terror cases.
I'm sorry, that entire debate coming through that platform itself is wrong. Hindu, Muslim, Christian, whoever it is, if a crime is committed, you would deal with it. And we need to therefore professionalize our police. We need to make sure reforms of the police is done. It cannot be done through this route of a Home Minister giving a dictate saying, I'm sorry, a youth belonging to a particular religion, institutionally India is biased. What are these messages we are giving? We either reform the system in such a way no citizen is hurt unlawfully, no citizen is held unduly, and therefore build a strong Indian democracy. Not by saying there is an institutional bias against a particular religion. What are we talking about? Are we trying to say
But many say it exists.
Many can say many things.
You can see the number of Muslim men who've been wrongfully sent to jail and then let out, their lives and reputations damaged for the rest of their lives. I mean, these are serious incidents.
Pull people up who have done it, but you don't blame the entire institution for it. And if you blame, I think what is important for us is to sit back and see how, without blaming or corrupting the system, we can improve it, rather than go on prejudicing it by saying, oh, this institution is in favor of one particular religion and against another. These are, I think, prejudices which we are bringing into a system which may need reform. But this is not the way to go about.
Okay, Sanjay Jha, yes.
Yeah, Nidhi, I'll just make two quick observations. If you look at the history of communal riots in India, I mean, over a considerable period, it's not just about a sporadic period. You'll find invariably, if not practically all the cases, and that's the reason why, we want to debate the prevention of communal, violence bill, is because you will find that it's basically the problem happens because the police and the enforcement authorities do have a certain bias, and it has been established. So I think Nirmala Sitharaman, and we can debate it at some other point. But I'll give you two examples here of Sohrabuddin Sheikh
I'd like to say
and Ishrat Jahan, cases which are being legally contested today. And let me make this point here. If you look at it, they were targeted as terrorists, and nothing has been proved. In fact, Amit Shah went to jail on the Sohrabuddin Sheikh case. So you have to look at these examples from a larger sense. It's unfortunate that every time you do something for a minority community, it is considered as minority appeasement and vote bank politics. Now the truth of the matter is, no matter which government there is at the center or at the state, it is your responsibility. No, I don't think, Nidhi, we should look at everything from a timing perspective, because, I'll go back to the old saying, if you're doing a right thing, there is no such thing as a right time or a wrong time. It's a good thing. You've got to pursue that. Mr. Shinde has been, by the way, talking about it for a considerable period. And I think the BJP attacks him simply because, he made a statement a long time ago that they believe that they are being targeted for. But it's time we stop being prejudiced and very parochial when discussing matters of humanity and not just necessarily one or two communities.